That's what we're called to be. And we are called in such a way that we keep no records of wrongs. You see, I often think that this record of wrongs that we get stuck into here is the record of wrongs that others have against us. But the record of wrongs that I think Paul is really pointing to is the record of wrongs that we keep about ourselves. And I think that we are the hardest critics of our own lives. And what the apostle reminds us is that we cannot keep this record of wrongs any longer if we are going to grow up to our adult relationship with God. That if all we're doing is living through this record of wrongs, then we're not going to get anywhere. Because I want to tell you, sisters and brothers, I really believe we've probably got a volume of wrongs that we are keeping against ourselves. How many of us know about the book of life? You know, that book of life that every time you do something wrong, God writes it in the book? Yeah? It's been used against so many of us. You know, some of us think it's a page, or some of us think it's a chapter. I've got a volume. In fact, I'm probably in volume 3 by now. You know, but we've got this record of wrongs that we've been taught about, and yet the apostle reminds us that true love, true maturity, true following of Jesus keeps no record of wrongs. And if we're holding on to that record of wrongs this morning, we've not grown yet into our fullness of who God intends for us to be. Because God doesn't want to point to our failures. God wants to point to our successes. And yet we've been told that it's selfish to point to our successes. And yet, how much more like Christ can we become if we're not ready to accept the successes of our lives and to live from that place of blessing, not from that place of damage? Come on, people. Not looking at our faults, but looking at our assets. Sounds like a 12-step meeting. I said that last week. We no longer have to look at our failures, we have to look at our assets. But looking at our assets means that we have to take some responsibility and some accountability for our lives. And we don't want to take responsibility and accountability for our lives, because then it means that we have to grow up in our faith and become like Jesus. Come on now. There's enough in this world to put us down. Need is a world that brings us up, keeps no record of wrongs, hopes all things, believes all things, desires all things. We've been told it's wrong to desire things. That's not what the letter says. That if we're truly growing into the fullness of Christ, we should desire all things and know that in that desiring of all things, we are becoming like Jesus. Growing up in our faith, growing up in our spiritual journey, claiming a God in our own image, claiming a God who is real, claiming a God who wants you to have a lavish love in your life. You so often depend on other people for love. What would it be like if we just depended on ourselves for love? What would it be if we could truly, lavishly love ourselves? And because we lavishly love ourselves, then we have the ability to lavishly love somebody else. You see, if we're all just looking for affirmations from other people, they'll wear out. Because, we'll get those affirmations probably for the first couple of weeks when we're dating somebody. But when they get to see our faults, that all starts to stop. But if we were actually dependent on the way in which God lavishly loves us and we see ourselves the way that God sees us, and instead of just relying on somebody else to give us our affirmations, relied on ourselves and to remind ourselves that we're good people, it could take a whole lifetime just to get to that point. Of believing that we're good people, that we have good gifts to bring, that we have good lives to live. How's your love life? How in love are you with you? How in love are you with you? hopes all things, desires all things, dreams all things. We spoke about dreams last week. Dreams all things. That means that you have the potential and the possibility to fulfill all of your dreams. That's the God we believe in. The God that believes in you. And the God that believes in me. The God that sets us free from the oppression of others. And the God that sets us into our fullness as a human being created in God's image. How's your love life? How is it?